Pricing is definitely a contact sport. What would it mean to you if you retired from your distribution business after 30 years and you had never had a pricing complaint? Well, you'd probably think that you had worked for 10 years too long. You have to get to the point where you are comfortable with pricing complaints. Otherwise, you can't really price to resistance. And don't build your pricing strategy around your exceptions. So often a sales force comes in and starts talking about what the exceptions need to be, and that becomes the pricing architecture of the business. No, you have to figure out what's a good pricing architecture and how do I control the deviations away from it. Pricing complaints are serious. We say they're like mice. For every pricing complaint that you hear from a customer, there are probably 10 that you didn't hear. So you have to be aware of pricing complaints in your business, but that does not mean that you don't want to have any pricing complaints. The optimal level is certainly not 0. Do use data to make decisions in your business. One of the major breakthroughs of the Activant SPA product is that you can use data to define your pricing architecture. You can find those customers who are underpriced, you can find those products which are low sensitivity, and you'll be able to start managing using real data. You don't have to be perfect at this to win, though. One of the most important things about pricing is you just have to get better at it, and now is the perfect time to focus on it. What I'd like to do next is talk about some of the basic fundamentals of pricing. How do you master pricing in your business? Well, first of all, why should you even care about pricing? Pricing is how you convert customer value into shareholder value. All the investments that your customers have received the benefits of, things like your inventory, your vendor relationships, your supply chain, those are all creating customer value. The crucial question for your shareholders is, how do you extract shareholder value from all of that? And pricing is the crucial process that allows you to convert customer value into shareholder value. One of the most important facts for you to know is that every revenue dollar in your company is the result of a pricing decision. So how effective you are at managing price will have a dramatic effect on your profitability as a company. Imagine for 1 minute a 2% variation in price performance for your company. That would be worth $2 million per year for every $100 million in revenue, or $200,000 per year for every $10 million in revenue. That's big money. That's money that could come back to you year after year after year if you could manage and perfect a pricing architecture. What's the profit structure of distribution? It's a very thin margin environment. I don't have to tell you that. But look at this graphic for a second and understand how important pricing can be for your company. The typical U.S. industrial distributor is a 4% operating profit business. If you can generate 2 margin points in a 4% operating profit environment, you have increased your profitability by 50%. That's the math behind pricing. That's why you have to focus with your sales force on the importance of small choices that they make, because 2 margin points will easily make the difference between being profitable and being unprofitable. What would happen if you increased volume by 2%? Well, unfortunately, you would only get about a 15% improvement in operating profit. You reduce your operating expenses, you would get 13, you reduce your cost of goods sold. You can get some nice numbers there, but fundamentally, it's only pricing that goes from top line to bottom line, and that makes it the most high leverage part of your business mix. So why do distributors struggle at this? It seems obvious. If you're in a 4% business, you need to manage price carefully. Well, the reasons are clear as we've worked over the years with so many distributors. The starting point is the cost-plus mentality of sales forces. How often do your sales forces walk out the door and say, it's going to be cost plus 50 or cost plus 30? They've formed their entire value framework around what something costs you. Well, it's very hard to optimize the value of a business when your sales force thinks about their value in terms of what they paid for something. So you have to try to break that link between cost and price. How often does it seem like the sales reps are really just trying to please the customers? Their whole goal in life is to deliver a price where the customer smiles and says, sure, I like that price. Well, they've got to learn to represent not only their customers, but also their shareholders when they make those decisions. The next thing that we see is the sheer complexity of distribution businesses. The typical client that we work with in this room today will have perhaps 3,000 customers and may have 10, 20, 30,000 products. Well, what happens if you have 3,000 customers and 10,000 SKUs? you have 30 million pricing potential combinations. So it's very hard for most distributors to master pricing. The sheer complexity of it has made it difficult for folks to get their arms around it. There's also historically been a weakness in the systems that people use to manage their pricing. You haven't had good visibility into pricing decisions. You haven't had good controls. You haven't had good ways to layer your pricing in market-sensitive ways. There's also been a generalized lack of training around pricing. Most companies have spent more money training their sales forces in how to use their BlackBerries than they have on teaching them how to price effectively. So you have to take pricing seriously. If you want to be able to be successful as a business, to be a top quartile performer, you have to deal with all of these different dimensions of the pricing problem. Our company has developed a proprietary process which we call price indexing, which helps us to identify the leakage points in your business and to build a more profitable pricing architecture. In very simple terms, what we do in price indexing is we ask you to organize your customers into similar groups. So a typical industrial distributor may have contractors, they may have industrial accounts, they may have users, OEMs, resellers, various customer types that you think are appropriate in your business. What we do is we compare the prices that each and every customer paid on a particular product to the average prices paid by similar customers. That produces a price index. So a 0.9 means that they paid 10% less than average prices. A 1.0 means they paid average prices. A 1.1 is 10% more than average prices for their customer type. And we can measure that not only at the customer SKU level, but also at the customer's overall market basket level. What do we see when we do that? This is what we call a Your Name Here chart. I'm going to save you some consulting fees today and show you your own pricing performance. What we're showing you here is each of your customers, imagine, trust me for a minute that this is your chart, I promise you it is. We're showing you each of your customers as a dot. On the horizontal axis, you are seeing how much they spent with you over a 12-month period. And on the vertical axis, you're seeing how their overall price level compares to similar customers. So again, a 1.0 value means they paid average prices. So what do you see in this picture? Many of you, virtually all of you, are invested in the businesses that you're in one way or another, either through job security or return on investment. What do you see here? As if you're the owner sitting in the chair watching this presentation, you understand that this is your chart. What does this mean to you in an economy where volumes are off by 20%? How do you feel about that picture? There's a lot of opportunity. The bad news is this has been going on for decades. The good news is you now have an opportunity to do something about it. Where do you expect the most price-sensitive customers are on this chart? Just describe it, left or right. Where are the most sensitive customers likely to be? Why is that? Why would the customers on the right be more price-sensitive than the customers on the left? Is it because they're right-handed? They're high volume. What is it about being high volume that makes people more price-sensitive? They can shop around, get better prices. Most importantly, there's a payoff for shopping around. If you're a big customer, you spend a lot of money, the payoff from getting lower prices is significant. If you could save 10% on $1 million, you'd save $100,000. If you're a $3,000 contractor and you save 10%, you're not going to get as much payback from that. So the key issue around sensitivity and size is that big customers will tend to be more price sensitive. Is this just an academic picture? What does it mean to be in a 4% operating environment and have a picture that looks like this? It means you're going to work 10 years longer. You're giving up, you are forfeiting a major part of the return from what you do. Well, it's a messy problem, but fortunately, there are analytics and a product that we've developed with Activant now to help you exploit this opportunity, to correct it, and to sustain it for long periods of time.